Welcome to the Peer Workforce Conference, Bridging Research and Practice. I am Val Share, and this session is the peer specialist and library workers. How do these skills interact? And if you would like a certificate for attending this presentation, please put your name and email in the chat box toward the end of this sessions. So today our presenter, his name is, so forgive me if I pronounce your name wrong, Shine, is that correct?
Sine.
Sine, I'm so sorry. And I have a little bio that written that I have seen it, that you earned your PhD in eLearning leadership, as well as master's degrees in educational technology, librarianship, and public history. You also also a provisionally certified peer specialist. You have worked as an educator and librarian in a variety of institutions. So the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much. I welcome questions, comments throughout. I'll be trying to watch the chat to catch everything. Hopefully I don't miss anyone. And Belle will help me if I miss anything, please.
Will do.
Thank you. So, yeah, I've been a librarian for officially for about 25 years. I earned my first master's in library science in February 1998. But I've been working in libraries, including volunteering, since elementary school. I recently became a provisional certified peer specialist from the Academy of Peer Services in New York. And this presentation really came about because as I was studying to be a peer specialist, I was seeing so many things that I encounter in all the different libraries I've worked in. And I was thinking, wow, this would be so helpful to have someone like this in libraries to help deal with so many things that are come up over time everywhere. Particularly because this is where I've spent most of my time in academic libraries, but also in public libraries and basically any library where you're dealing with the public or unknown entities where you just don't know what you're going to expect. So I'm relatively new to peer specialist work compared to my work in libraries. So please forgive me if I make any mistakes in my language use. Feel free to correct me. I'm here to learn from all of you. I hope I learn as much, if not more, than what you learn from me. So hopefully I don't say anything too basic, but I want to be sure we're all on the same page using the same terminology. So certified peer specialists work with others, work with others who have lived experiences similar to them, particularly mental health and or substance abuse. And while this might not sound useful in a library, and I appreciate those of you who've come and trusted me that this does exist, this session will show and share how becoming a provisionally certified peer specialist has enhanced my work as a librarian with all persons, drawing on my experiences as a librarian working in community colleges and universities, public libraries, private and public school libraries, special libraries, and you name it, I've probably worked in it if it has something to do with libraries. And basically through drawing parallels and using examples and hopefully you can also all share examples with me and with all of us about how the training of a peer specialist overlaps and enhances the work of any librarian or other library staff member. When I use the word librarian or library worker, I'm referring to anyone who works in a library, whether it's a professionally trained and licensed librarian, such as I'm licensed as a New York State public librarian and also as a school media specialist, but also anyone. So if you're working with circulation, if you're working with um, helping people to find things, providing information, if you're a social worker working in the library, which has become increasingly more common, though not common enough yet in public libraries, if you're the janitor, it doesn't matter. Anyone working there who interacts with the public. I'm talking about anyone. So through discussion and examples, we're going to look at what it takes to be a peer specialist, which most of us know, and explore how some of these skills and trainings can be used to expand the knowledge base of library staff at all levels, and how some of the work of librarians might be, or other library staff might actually also be beneficial to working as a peer specialist. So interacting with others, whether or not you're a peer, I find it to be so difficult interacting, and learning tips from other fields can only enhance the work in our field, just as working in a librarian or other library situation, learning how to interact with others from other fields really helps enhance the work. When I've taught library school, I've used role play so many times in my classroom to teach future library workers about how to handle communication, and becoming a peer specialist, and all the emphasis on peer-centered, on empathy, on meeting the peer where they're at. It just all clicked for me when I thought back to how do I interact with people in the library? How do I work with people in the library? How do I build that trust? How do I build that connection? How do I reach them? So whether in the reference interview, when sitting behind the desk with, the traditional bun in the hair and the shushing, which I hate, and we're really trying to get rid of that image, but I know it's the traditional image, like in The Music Man. Really working with people to find to help them find what they need, whether it's answering an in-depth research question, helping them to borrow a book, performing outreach, or in passing, such as answering, where's the restroom? Um, the skills and the techniques really can cross those boundaries and really enhance the work from any field. So defining peer support, I'll read the screen because I'm all about DEI, diversity, equality, um, diversity, inclusion, and also UDL, universal design learning. So according to Mental Health America in 2023, in behavioral health, a peer is usually used to refer to someone who shares the experience of living with a psychiatric disorder and or addiction. In that narrow context, two people living with those conditions are peers, but in reality, most people are far more specific about whom they would rely on for peer support. Trust and compatibility are extremely important factors. And that really comes down to, how do you pick the library staff member you're going to go to? Do you, who gives off that aura of trust and that they'll be compatible with you? Just like with a peer specialist, if you can't build that trust, that relationship, how can someone ask you for help, whether it's navigating the system to find resources that you need to help you get accessibility for your job, to help you learn how to be social, to help you write your research paper. It's all how can you get connected to resources? And it's really building that trust and compatibility. The MHA goes on to say peer support is the process of giving and receiving encouragement and assistance to achieve long-term recovery. Peer supporters offer emotional support, share knowledge, teach skills, provide practical assistance, and connect people with resources, opportunities, communities of support, and other people, as quoted from Mead and Salmon by the MHA. In behavioral health, peers offer their unique lived experience with mental health conditions to provide support focused on the advocacy, education, mentoring, and motivation. So peer support, helping others to find resources for their unique lived experiences and situations, drawing on your knowledge of your own lived experience, of our own lived experiences to help others. But as a librarian or working in a library, when I'm interacting with someone, or actually anywhere, if someone comes up to me in the grocery store, I've been finding I do this so much more. I draw on, whether I think about it or not, how do I answer this person's question? Whatever the question is, how can I answer them? How can I help them? How can I be sure that I'm being patient, that I'm focusing on the question? And I'd like to ask all of you, if you had to define what is peer support in a couple of words, if you could share it either by typing it, or if you prefer verbal, raising your hand to speak. Sorry to put you all on the spot. Okay. I'll give it a couple of seconds if anyone has anything. Otherwise, I'll move on. Okay. So moving on, it's fine. You can just keep keep it in your head too. It's great also. So what's a librarian? So for the purpose of this analysis and presentation, I'm going to use the term librarian as an umbrella term for all staff working in a library, including, but not limited to, professionally trained librarians, paraprofessionals, library assistants, clerical staff, IT staff, volunteers, basically anyone who is helping other people in the library. And according to the American Library Association, librarians work in a variety of settings, including museums, hospitals, businesses, public libraries, colleges, universities, and schools. In their work, librarians research, instruct, and connect people to the technology. Librarians build websites, digitize archives, and manage social media. Librarians work with people of all ages, connecting them to information, learning, and the community. As library services become more varied, so do the jobs in libraries. Librarians are no longer the only professionals working in libraries. Libraries employ web developers, knowledge managers, and IT professionals, youth workers, security officers, archivists, books conservators, school liaisons, social workers, friends group nonprofit managers, and others are a few of the unique positions employed in libraries. Besides discussing librarians and other similar professionals, this presentation will look at all who work in libraries. Hine, as quoted in Sultan Evangelist in 2009, noticed when evaluating college students, but really this is applicable to almost any library setting, and it's not being judgmental at all. There's no official license to be a librarian in general, but unfortunately not all librarians can be elitist and only want those with the masters in library science to be called a librarian. I say, call me whatever you want as long as I can help you. Um, and that's the opinion of a lot of librarians, but unfortunately not all. So I just want to make that clear. Um, so Hine found that students and patrons expect the same level of service for all tasks in the library, even those that may not be directly related to library resources and services. And students often do not see the division or boundaries between technical questions and library resources and services as a reference librarian might. Complicating these matters is that many library users, including students, do not differentiate between or even concern themselves with the educational background of the people staffing library service desks. As a consequence, library users tend to call anyone who works in a library a librarian. So, and in a recent study at the University of Rochester reinforces this idea that, according to Foster and Gibbons, students rarely make distinctions between the types of staff needed in the library. To students, we're all librarians. And while there's a common misconception that any person who works in a library is a librarian, some find they are very distinct roles with qualifications and career paths that are different. As a library worker, I do recognize this difference. However, for the purpose of this presentation, I'm going to use the term library worker and librarian interchangeably. If anyone has any opinions about what librarians are called, if you would like to share them in the chat, or what do you call the person that you ask for help in the library? If you want to toss that in the chat, that would be great. Otherwise, I'm just gonna move on. And I actually encounter this on the other side, and I find myself, because I'm still new to the peer support world, both as a consumer and as a peer provider. I don't always know exactly where those boundaries are, and I'll just ask my peer specialist anything and hope that they'll direct me to the right person if I'm not asking the right person. Thanks. I hope I get your name right, Everett. It's um it is a thank you. It is I don't mind, but but sometimes knowing that distinction can really help to know who to go to for what question. But I know, like, I have asked my peer specialist everything from, you know, I don't understand how to go to this meeting and talk to people, to what do I wear to work when they tell me there's no dress code, but I'm supposed to be a professional? And you can laugh at that. It's okay. But I've actually to how do I ask for accommodations at work? And I've been redirected to my job coach, to what does this medication do? Where I've been redirected to my doctor, or they've come with me to ask the doctor together, and made sure I understood what the doctor told me. So the distinction is there, but really, when you have a question, you just ask the first person you see. Or at least that's me. And I just hope that I get directed correctly to the right person. And then I hopefully say thank you. Sometimes I get upset, but hopefully I usually do say thank you. Have any of you experienced that, where you get asked questions that just are like, why are you asking me? You have this other professional who can help you. Okay. If you think about it and you want to share, that's fine. again, no requirements. I love asking for input. It's part of who I am, so feel free to share. Feel free not to share. I don't push or force anyone. So becoming a peer specialist, I know not everyone's from New York, so it can differ in each state. In New York State, to become a certified peer specialist, and to become a provisionally certified peer specialist, you need to complete coursework. One path is through completing coursework from the Academy of Peer Specialists and obtaining your provisional license, and then additional coursework and hours working as a peer specialist to become a fully certified peer specialist, as well as completing regular continuing education requirements. Other states have similar licensing requirements, and there is a push for national standards. We're getting closer. More and more states are requiring some type of license. We're not there yet. Hopefully we get there. Hopefully the librarians get there and have that also at some point in the future, but that's another issue for another organization. There are several types of peer specialists, and in this session, I'm focusing specifically on those who work in the mental health field and certified by the Academy of Peer Specialists. Other types of peer specialists include pros, recovery, judicial, youth advocates, and more. Specifically focusing on peer specialists who work with adult population because that's what I'm aware of most, and that's what I'm most comfortable talking about. So, what are the special traits of a peer specialist? And no, there's no one specific answer because we're all different. Thank you, Kathy. That's great to know about Alaska. I really had, I love learning new things and what's out there. Um, so what's a special trait of peer specialists? Please ignore the little bit of sorry about that. HTML that I have here. That is actually a quirk of mine that I include where there are paragraph breaks in quotations that I use. So according to NAPS, National Association of Peer Specialists, I believe that's of peer supporters, sorry. Both lived experience and role-specific training are required to practice as a peer support specialist. Traditional academic education is not a substitute for the training and life experience of a peer support specialist who practices from a, turning off the laser pointer because I know it can be annoying, who practices from the perspective of having lived experience. There's no specific special trait of being a librarian either. Thank you, Kathy. I'm glad to hear I have it pretty much right. It's just that one similar thing is hopefully librarians and library staff have been a library patron also. Librarians often do have the experience and library staff of being a library patron as well, whether it's back in elementary school or just last week. Oh, well, Kathy, that is great to know that there's peer specialists based on culture as well. That is so cool. Never knew that. So interested in that one. Might have to look into that. So library staff also have role-specific training, specifically librarians obtained as part of their academic coursework towards their librarianship degree or other degree, and also learned on the job. So whether through official internships or just starting working in the library and dealing with things, you're learning things. So the same is true of a course of a peer specialist. They have lived experience as a person with mental health concerns, as well as training towards their certification through coursework and or webinars and hands-on practice. One important thing, and something I've always tried to practice as a librarian, is to remember what it's like to be a patron, and particularly a college student when working in academic libraries. And to do so through lived experience, I'm constantly taking courses at a college level, whether for credit or non-credit, just to remember what it's like to be a student. Thanks, Kathy. I learned just as much from being a student that helped me in my career as I did in the subject I was studying at any level, be it as an undergrad or graduate in the field of my work or for fun. I saw myself more understanding and better able to relate to the patrons when I was also a student or had just finished a term or a course. The same for working with faculty. I found when I was teaching, I've been a college faculty member on and off since 2000 with undergraduate and graduate students. I found that when I was currently teaching or had recently taught or even did something with professional development, I really had a lot more lived experience to share with those I worked with. And by being able to share, whether as a librarian or as a peer specialist, when I'm doing peer work, I'm doing some volunteer peer work, I find when I've recently met with my peer specialist or done some training and with role play, I've realized I have a lot more empathy and understanding for them having been on the other side of that equation. I don't know if that's the same for all of you, but after I've met with my peer specialist, I'm so much more patient with people and I just really get them so much more when they're struggling to connect with me. Thanks, Rebecca. It just really makes me like click with them better. And by being able to share and ask for help from the people I'm working with, whether directly or by simply saying, wow, that helped me in my class to a student the next time I saw them, it really helps build that mutual help, trust, and respect in our relationships. As mentioned previously, that whole core of being a peer specialist, being able to build that trust, that connection that I've been there. By letting someone know they helped me, it really also makes it more of a give and take, not just, oh, I'm the one who knows it all, whether, the peer specialist who unfortunately sometimes, fortunately, maybe, I'm not sure yet, still working that one out. Maybe you guys can tell me whether the peer specialist who's mistaken for the psychiatrist, the job coach, and everyone else on the integrated team, or the librarian or other library staff member who's mistaken for everyone in the library. It really makes me feel it's more like a give and take and less like a, okay, you're the one who knows it all, so I have to like kowtow to you and beg and plead and show my vulnerability. And I really don't like doing that. That, you know, that's hard. Whereas if, well, you got something from it, so I don't feel so bad for asking you for something because I taught you something. So now you can teach me something. Does that example, I hope, make sense? Um, Sorry, I'm so used to presenting in person and getting visual feedback from people. This is a little awkward for me. I'm sorry if I'm keep asking for feedback. Please know I'm not expecting it 100%. It's just a habit of mine to check for understanding. Okay, I really do thrive on questions and sharing, so please do feel free to pop anything or anything up. I'm always concerned if I'm not making sense or something. Um, so next slide. How do the roles of peer specialist and librarian or library staff overlap? Um, So core values of a peer specialist as defined by National Association of Peer Supporters in 2009 is on the left. Thank you, David. Yes, you said in a nutshell, the life experience helps and makes it easier for people to relate to. That is basically it. And I find that true everywhere. If you've been in my shoes or in something similar, you're more likely to understand what I'm going through and not think my question is dumb. I know we all say no question is dumb, but inside, the eyes might be rolling and we might be scared to ask in case the eye roll comes out at us or it changes how someone views us. On the right is the Library Bill of Rights. There's no specific standard of the core values of a peer specialist. The best I could find was the Library Bill of Rights, which talks about what a library in general does, not specifically librarians or library staff. They give human characteristics and traits to libraries instead. So I can't remember the word for that. Help when you give human characteristics to non-human things. I just forgot what that's called. Oh boy, that's going to bother me till I remember. If someone remembers, please put it in the chat so I remember. That is going to be pestering me now for the rest of the presentation. Oh no. So in the Library Bill of Rights, the library or library workers provide. Thank you, Blue. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Anthropomorphism. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. You just made my life so much easier. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So the American Library Bill of Association's Library Bill of Rights. American Library Association is, I guess, the closest to the National Library Association that I could find. Affirms that all libraries are forums for information and ideas, and that the following basic policies should guide their services. In particular, you know, it's there basically are policies that should guide the services of peer supporters or peer specialists, sometimes called core values. Books and other library resources should be provided for the interest, information, and enlightenment of all people of the community the library serves. Materials should not be excluded because of the origin, background, or views of those contributing to their creation. Now, when we talk about books and library resources, materials, we're not only talking about the actual materials, but any information provided from the library, whether it's links to community resources, referrals to other professionals or organizations, referring to a peer or a colleague in the library who has other specializations or is part of the integrated team that the library provides, or even if you're a solo library worker, referring to peers either who work at different times and other places in your organization or in other libraries or elsewhere. It's all, what do we offer and how do we share it? Okay. Libraries should provide materials and information presenting all points of view on current and historical issues. Materials or any information should not be proscribed or removed because of partisan or doctrinal disapproval, or really any disapproval, unless it's through like legal or organizational beliefs, not beliefs, but rules, I guess is the best way to say it. Just like I, as a peer specialist, I can't judge what's the best or right thing to give you. We give options, we help people to choose when which is the best one. We're person-centered. The same thing when in a library, we're person-centered and we need to offer unbiased resources. We can teach people how to evaluate resources to determine if it's best for them, but we can't say, this one's bad, this one's good. We need to help the person decide what's the best option, resource, path, goal, whatever it is for them. And we can't be the one to make that decision. We can be the guides to guide them to determine which is the best for them. We can help them explore options, but we can't or shouldn't say this is the only way, or this is the only way to get this, or this is the only book that has the information. You can't use an audiobook. Hate when people tell me I can't use an audio or online resource and I have to use a print book. Or now that I have to use an online resource and I can't use a print book. Either way, drives me crazy. I like to use whatever best works for me at the time. So libraries should challenge censorship in the fulfillment of their responsibility to provide information and enlightenment. Same thing, we're peers. We should challenge when it's said, no, that's not good. You can't, don't tell the peer you're working with that that's an option. That no, this is the option that this clinic, that this professional that we're meeting with says is the only option. There are options. Don't censor it. Speak up. Advocate. Librarians are, well, some librarians, I will never say all, are huge advocates. National Library Legislative Day. Librarians are always out there. I'm sure many of you have heard about book bans, and yes, they're back again. Librarians are out there. Don't ban books. People should have the right to choose, or you can choose what your child reads, but you can't choose what his child reads or her child reads. You can only choose for your own child, your own adult, your own parent, your own whatever, not everyone else. Same thing. You can't make the decision for me. You need to give me the information and let me, the peer, the consumer, make that decision for myself. The trained person, the staff, whoever they are, you're there to help me figure out which is the best, not to pre-screen it for me. Working as a peer, being a peer, I hate when I'm told, no, that one's no good for you. And I'm not helped to determine why. I'm just told, no, that is the fastest way to turn me off from getting help. I don't know if you realize that, if you also encounter that. Once you tell me, no, that's not for you, I dig in my heels and that's the only one I want. That is the worst thing to tell me. I am stubborn and I want to read the book that I'm told not to. I want to use that method that I'm told is the worst method and not for me. Do any of you also find that when you're working, whether as a peer on either side or encountering any type of information or resource in general? You know, it's like that forbidden fruit. Definitely more, the more you refuse it to me, the more enticing it becomes. And again, when I came into the role of peer specialist and I was looking at it and I was, being told, advocate person-centered, person choice, let them make their own decisions, guide them, but don't tell them. I was like, yeah, because as soon as a book is censored, that book has the longest waiting list of any book in the library. Everett, yes, I can tell you that my son, who's now, I think, 23, he was in, I think, second or third grade. And as soon as he learned about the list of banned books, those were the only books he wanted to read. And I had to find the abridged versions for him. And he went through that entire list of everything that I could find that I thought was age appropriate for him. And I explained to him why the other ones weren't. And I said, as soon as I feel you're ready to understand the concepts, I will share them with you. And I did follow through on that. He read every one of those books and raised his parochial school teachers' eyebrows because they were getting annoyed going, and I was getting phone calls. Did you know your son read this? And I would go, yeah, I gave it to him. Did you know your son read this? Yeah, that's my signature on it. Did you? And it was like, the more you call me about this and tell him you're going to call me, the more he's going to want to read these. Would you just let him read them and stop making a fuss and he'll read something else? Same thing. And this is not bad mouthing my peer specialist because we all make mistakes. I've made mistakes. They once told me, I don't think that's the right one for you. And I said, why? And I made them help me think through it not made them, but they realized, oh, you need to think through this to make the decision for yourself, don't you? And I went, yep. And I thought through it. And then I made the decision for myself. And actually, I agreed with them, but I had to decide for myself. I'm one of those people. You tell me the stove is hot and it's going to burn me. I'm going to touch it to find out it burns. Same thing. Give a choice, give options, teach how to evaluate, teach how to determine what's best for you. When I work with peers and we go places and they're only given one option, I cringe, both from the peer I'm working with because I've been there and I'm like, don't tell me what to do. And I cringe for the poor professional who's giving only one option because you give only one option, you're going to see heels dug in and you're not going to get anywhere. You need to explain benefits of multiple options so that a decision can be made. Yes, occasionally there is only one decision like get the COVID shot but even then it's like, okay, I understand you're scared of the COVID shot. Let's look at it. Let's examine it. Let's determine, is it good for you? Which way would you be more willing to go for something? Even if there's only one option, just being engaged in the decision to do that or not do it. It's still a choice, and being able to make that choice really helps you take ownership of it, feel like you're a part. And I think that's basically the main gist of everything, is helping the other person be a part of whatever process is going on. Libraries should cooperate with all persons and groups concerned with resisting abridgment of free expression and free access to ideas. I think that ties in very well with the previous one. And a person's right to use a library or use resources from a library or use resources recommended by a library should not be denied or abridged because of origin, age, background, or views, or anything else. Just like we shouldn't prejudge resources for the peers that we work with. We don't want the other people that we go to with our peers or that we consult with to help our peers. We don't want them making this decision on some arbitrary thing. We want the peer to be able to make that determination themselves to the best of their capability. Yes, there are different levels of capability and we need to be aware of that. But as much as possible, giving that choice. If you say no, if you ban it, they're just going to want that one more. It's human nature. So just, being aware of that. Libraries which make exhibit spaces, meeting rooms, or anything else available to the public, databases, any information, we should libraries should make sure that this is available on an equitable basis regardless of the beliefs, affiliations, or any other abilities of the individuals or groups requesting or desiring to request their use. Equal access as much as possible. Same thing. As a peer specialist, as a peer, We want equal access to everything. We don't want these decisions being made behind closed doors. We want access. We want to be able to use it, to read it, to understand it. If we don't understand it, whether in a library or in any setting, we want help to be able to understand it, whether it's interpretation, helping in comprehension, helping in application, having translation, having it in a different format, having it repeated, having it in different words that make sense, having that available. Having a door that opens automatically or having the option to use a manual door. I have this really weird aversion to revolving doors, and I hate when that's the only option because for me, that's a like really weird, huge trigger. And I don't know why. And that's like that can turn me off, just not being able to get into the building without having access in a way that I prefer. And also confidentiality and privacy. Library Bill of Rights, all people have a right to privacy and confidentiality of what they do in the library, what they ask, what they've done, what they haven't done, what they've touched, what they've accessed, what they haven't accessed. And as peers, we want our peers to be protected. We don't want other people to know what's going on. Obviously, working with the team, that's different, but HIPAA, we don't go gossiping about what we do, what we don't do. Hey, they're using this and hey, my client, Sam, he's always going to whatever, going to this AA meeting in the church on Tuesdays in room 333. And Sam is sharing so much there. I think you should go there too because you'll be able to be with Sam. Bad idea. Beyond HIPAA, that just breaks your trust. Don't share information because then I'll never trust you to share anything with you. So any questions on any of those values, Bill of Rights, any thoughts, insights? Feel free to criticize me if I say something wrong. I'm here to learn, like I said, and I am totally open to criticism as long as it helps me figure out what I'm saying to make it better. Okay. Belle, I'm so sorry. I can't, for some reason, can't see the participants. So if someone's raising their hand, I am so sorry. Please do invite them to speak.
No, nobody's raising their hand. I'll be monitoring.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, my screen just decided to take away my ability to see who's here. Which is quite strange. Thank you, 694-605-1942.
That's Kathy.
Oh, thank you, Kathy. Sorry. I respect any name someone wants to be called. I've dealt with everything under the sun, and I'm very open to any name. I just roll with whatever I see. So peer support is voluntary. And I'm using the National Association of Peer Supporters core values. So the first core value, peer support is voluntary. So just as peer specialists don't force or coerce others to use a service or resource or anything else. It's so strange. So too, library staff, library workers don't coerce a patron to accept help or to use a specific resource. We can suggest resources, we can suggest information, but we can't make it be used. And just as a peer specialist respects the right of a peer to not want to interact with themselves at any point or to stop the interaction at any point, so too a library staff member respects the patron's right to want to work with someone else and to perform what's called a warm handoff to someone else if at all possible. Now, don't go chasing down someone who says, I don't want to work with you and disappears. That's kind of a very blatant, extreme example, but either way, unless you know the peer and you have a relationship and you understand where that's coming from, or they're putting themselves in danger, you don't go running after them going, no, you have to let me help you. I'm your peer. Come back here and accept my help. That really doesn't work. You've got to build up that trust, build up that relationship. And if they're not comfortable or you're not comfortable, got to work on that. Peer supporters and peer specialists have the right. Okay, there's an ice cream truck outside. I am so sorry. I turned off every other sound but that. I couldn't turn off the ice cream truck. Just as a peer supporter has the right to choose not to work with individuals, for a library staff member, this could be a little bit more difficult as everyone does deserve. Blue, I'm sorry. If I could, I would stop so we could all run out and get some. But unfortunately, it is way too hot here for me to close my windows. I don't want to pass out. So peer specialists have the right to choose not to work with individuals. Librarians and library staff, that can be a little bit more complicated because everyone does deserve equal access to information and resources, including the staff members who hold that knowledge. The peer specialist can go to their supervisor or someone else and say, I'm not comfortable. This is triggering for me. And oh, Kathy, I wish I could. I can't, so library staff member, I can't exactly do that in the middle of an interaction or just say, whatever, can't. It's a lot harder to be a little bit more diplomatic. Obviously, as a peer specialist, I really should try not to ruin that connection for people with peers and should try to uh, do a warmer handoff. But in the library, it is highly frowned upon to not do a warm handoff. So like if there's a colleague as a librarian, I can, transfer the person over. I can refer them to another desk, to another person in the library, to another department. If I'm lucky and I have another librarian working next to me, I can give them the signal, help me, I can't deal with this person, I'm going to go crazy. So learning how to do this transfer seamlessly and without blame or accusation, it's really an important skill to learn. I don't always do it well, but I've been working on it for many years as a librarian. And I found that it also helps me as a peer specialist, that when I refer someone to not say, and this is called a cold handoff, I can't help you. Go to the job coach. That's not my job. Go ask the person at the circulation desk. They're the ones who do library cards. I don't do library cards. Not my job. In either case, and again, that's an extreme example, that is not something that goes over very well. It's much more comfortable as a person asking for help if someone says something like, that's unfortunately, that's not really my area of expertise, but my colleague over there is better trained in that, has more knowledge about that. Yeah, I get that that's a hard question about work. What do you feel about going to Jack, your job coach, to discuss this. Would you feel comfortable going to Jack, or would you like me to come help you reach out to Jack about this? Do any of you have any ideas or examples on what might be a warm or cold handoff, and which one, or which of those you might prefer, or why? And I know some of my examples are really weird and extreme. It's As a learner, those extreme examples really help me more than the more minor, softer ones that don't really hit home to me as well and stick in my head as long.
Well, in the chat, Blue puts that I work at a warm line and we do warm transfers to the suicide prevention line for those who need the higher level care. Thank you, Blue.
Thank you, Blue. Definitely the warm transfer. Do you find that that's, I don't know if you do or not, and you don't have to answer this, but as I've volunteered with a suicide prevention line, and we were trained that warm transfers, helping the person to feel like it's their choice, they're more likely to accept the transfer. I don't know if you guys find that also. Thanks, Blue. I love knowing that it's not just me thinking something, but that other people see it too. Thank you. That really helps me. Um, so, there have been times where I haven't. Blue also shared that at the warm line, everything is the caller's choice. And as a peer specialist, that's what I've been seeing in the training is make, as much as possible, make it the client's choice, let them have ownership. And in the library, also letting the person have ownership. It really does help make it more comfortable for everyone. Even something as simple as where's the restroom? I, I'll self-disclose, I'm non-binary. And for me, I hate when someone tries to tell me which bathroom, only tells me where one bathroom is when they're not next to each other. So I always go, men's room is there on the left, women's room is there on the right. And I'm always thankful when I'm working somewhere where they're both in the same direction. I can just go, restrooms are to your right, and let the person pick themselves. Because I don't like to assume which one someone wants, because I don't want someone to assume about me. And that's that empathy thing. So that's something really that ties it home for me. So peer supporters are helpful, are hopeful. Well, yeah, we're also helpful, but we're hopeful. Um, Librarians really get so involved to share stories and personal experiences. Um, it's actually so helpful just to have that in the back of my mind when someone comes to me with a question, to think, ooh, yeah, I had a question like that. And I didn't like how they responded to me. So let me respond the way I would want to be responded to. Um, Even just having that happening subconsciously for me, really helps me to relate to the current struggles faced, whether it's by patrons in the library or when I'm working with a peer. Because no, I generally do not have the same shared experience with either a peer I'm working with or with a client I'm working with at the library. But I've been somewhere similar. And just thinking about it, whether or not I share it, helps me to be in their shoes and to react more understanding. one reason why I try to always go to libraries without identifying myself as a librarian, just so I can remember what it's like on the other side. Taking classes, being a student, remembering what it's like to be on the other side of that interaction. I really want to remember to draw on that lived experience to be able to help people. Peer supporters, also, we model recovery behaviors and we act as ambassadors of recovery. In the library, we model proper library behavior and also proper information searching, proper information usage, proper information evaluation. Or at least we should be in both instances. Particularly in libraries, we should be showing you how to do things, not doing it for you or saying this is the only way to do it, but modeling it, showing how it works, thinking out loud, helping the other person to think out loud and think through what's going on. It all really helps. And as NAPS or NAPS says, peer supporters help others reframe life challenges as opportunities for personal growth. You know, oh wow, that's a really good question. Let's see how we can find an answer to that. Helping someone find the travel to the answer to be exciting, not just, oh God, another issue. Now I got to deal with it. Or another question. Let's just go find the answer. Or oh, another roadblock. Let's see how we can address this. And also acting as ambassadors of recovery, of everything. Peer supporters, we model, we draw on our life experiences. This is, share. When I was looking for a job, I was struggling so much with so many turn downs. I started realizing it's not me. There's so many other people looking for a job that I'm going to get turned down sometimes. Let me keep trying. There is a better fit for me somewhere. Because if they don't think I'm a fit, it's better I know now. And sharing that rather than just saying, oh, well, you got turned down. There's other jobs out there. But helping the person to put it into a different frame of mind, helping them to reframe it, being an ambassador of how to reframe it really just helps so much. At the same time, a Pollyanna attitude really. Thanks, Val. So peer supporters are open-minded. We embrace differences. Same thing in libraries. Open-mindedness. Helping everyone, being open to new ideas, not sticking to our way or the highway, but really helping people out. Peer supporters are empathetic. Librarians should and library workers should strive to be empathetic. Effective listening skills, motivational listening, active listening, authentic listening, all so important ways to make that connection so that people want help. Peer supporters are respectful, and so are librarians. Peer supporters facilitate change. Again, similar. Librarians recognize injustices, act as advocates, facilitate change where appropriate, strive to understand how injustices may affect people, and help those we support and serve to challenge and overcome these injustices, and look for areas in need of change for ourselves and others. Peer supporters are honest and direct without being insulting. And librarians too, respect privacy and confidentiality and engage in candid, honest discussions about any topic without judgment of what's coming at us. In the library, that can be a little bit harder because I've gotten some questions that are totally against my beliefs, and I've had to put them aside to answer the question and help the person. And then I'll go in the back and scream, yell, throw a hissy fit, and be upset that I had to answer that. But while I'm helping the patron, I do try to respect their beliefs and be compassionate and try to build a relationship of trust and honesty and respect, but not telling them that I think they're wrong or stupid because it's not something that will build a relationship. And person-centered, it's mutual, it's reciprocal. We don't peer supporters don't diagnose or offer medical services, but offer a complementary service. Same thing, librarians and other library staff know where their boundaries are and do the warm handoffs. Same way. Peer support is equally shared power. Peer support is strengths focused, and we try to match the peer as a peer specialist or librarian, the patron, with where their strengths are, whether it's an audiobook, a print book, or anything else, finding the information that's in the way that the person is most likely to use it and appreciate it, but letting them make the choice. Peer support is transparent. Be honest when we can't help with something, language that we use, same thing, only making promises that can be kept and are accurate. Same thing with librarians, don't promise something if you can't do it. And don't diagnose or prescribe medications or specific resources. Those are all very important. And of course, peer support is person-driven, one of the key takeaways. And that's the end of the slideshow. And I want to ask if anyone has any thoughts, comments, questions, anything else that they would like to share. I welcome questions, criticisms, anything that you want to share. Again, that's what helps me learn and see where I can become better with what I do.